Recruit an army and thousands of people could leave your economy. Lose those soldiers, and your kingdom may spend years recovering. Destroy one iron mine, and the effects could spread through the entire trade network. Place a castle beside that network, and the fortress you built on the campaign map could become the battlefield where you defend it. Medieval 3 has presented the most exciting vision for a Total War campaign in years. On paper, Creative Assembly might actually finally be bringing back something Total War has gradually lost. But those two words matter. On paper. Medieval 3 is still in pre-production, and the developers repeatedly stress that everything may change. Much of what we have seen consists of rough prototypes, tests, ideas, not finished features, and this would hardly be the first game that sounds better during development than it eventually plays. But this is not a declaration that Total War is back. It is a look at why Medieval 3's vision is so promising, where the warning signs already exist, and why the only honest verdict is to wait and see. When people talk about the magic of older Total War games, they often focus on individual features. Medieval 2 had memorable agents and characters. Empire had regional towns that physically appeared and could be attacked. Shogun 2 gave individual provinces clear strategic value through resources, such as iron. Older campaigns were often less polished, perhaps, in a sense, and sometimes far more awkward. Take the funny failed assassins clip, for example. But the mechanics felt connected to the campaign you were playing. Newer Total War games placed far greater focus on individual characters and unique faction mechanics, which has also changed the role we play. Instead of guiding a wider kingdom or people through generations, we have drifted more towards playing as one famous character and the faction built around them. And while faction may now play more differently, their mechanics can sometimes feel separate from the wider campaign world. At the same time, many other parts of the campaign have become cleaner and more convenient, but also more abstract. The mechanics may still work well on their own, but they do not always feel like connected parts of the same world. The most important thing Creative Assembly has revealed about Medieval 3 is not any single feature, it's the decision to reconnect them. The developers call it vertical depth. A small number of core systems, especially population and wealth, feeding into almost everything else. That could make a decision in one part of the campaign create consequences somewhere completely different. And nowhere is that clearer than the population. Medieval 3 currently divides the population into 3 estates: peasants, townfolks, and nobles. Culture and religion will further define the people living within each region. Those people are not intended to exist only as a growth bonus. Buildings need workers, while soldiers are recruited from the actual population. Raise an army of peasants, and fewer people remain to work the fields. Recruit knights, and you draw from the much smaller noble estate. Lose those men in battle, and the kingdom has not simply lost a unit card, it has lost a part of its population. In the prototype shown by Creative Assembly, the area around Toledo contained around 500 nobles. The developers explained that recruiting only a few units of knights could take a large share of that entire class. In most Total War games, losing an elite army hurts because it costs money and time to replace. In Medieval 3, it could hurt because your kingdom has literally run out of men capable of replacing it. Some of my most memorable defeats in Total War were not always the largest ones. They were the defeats that destroyed an army I have spent dozens of turns building or left an entire frontier open. Medieval 3's population system could make the kingdom itself remember a defeat like that. A disastrous war should not end when the final battle does. It should leave farms without workers, noble houses without heirs, and regions unable to raise another army. But this is also our first major reason for caution. A population system is not automatically interesting just because it's detailed, right? If losses only create long waiting times, or if the AI receives bonuses that allow it to ignore the same limits, depth could become frustration. The system will only work if population creates difficult but understandable decisions, and if the AI is capable of making them too. And the same philosophy extends to the campaign map. The current plan begins in 1140 and covers roughly 3 centuries. Geographically, the developers are aiming from Iberia to around Baghdad, and from northern Scandinavia to North Africa. The planned land area is roughly comparable to Attila's, but the scale within the area is meant to feel far greater. Cities should no longer sit only a few centimeters apart on a compressed board. Each region is supposed to feel like a meaningful area of land. I like that idea. Creative Assembly is also moving away from the multi-settlement province structure introduced in Rome II. Our region will now have one administrative capital surrounded by rural and urban developments. The clearest inspiration here is obviously empire. Farms, mines, villages, monasteries, ports, and other developments can exist physically within the region. Some may grow organically as population increases, others can be built and upgraded by the player. The current plan has no fixed limit on building slots. In theory, a city could eventually contain every available building if you invest enough in it. You would then shape the city through upgrades added to those buildings. And interestingly, castles can be placed where you need them. A castle is no longer just the next level in a settlement chain. You might place it near a border, at the crossing, or beside a vital road. The fortification becomes a decision about geography. After 100 turns, the campaign map could visibly record the choices you made. That sounds like exactly the kind of physical world Total War needs, but natural growth could produce variety or a crowded map. Settlements shaped by the campaign could create unique battlefields or layouts the AI cannot navigate. This is a fear with these kinds of systems. Trade may be the systems where this actually turns into an actual strategy game. Routes are planned between individual regions, not only between factions. This means you can trade with other realms, but also build a network within your own kingdom. Characters may travel to establish those routes. Valuable routes should appear busier, with more caravans physically moving across the campaign map. This is not intended to be purely cosmetic. Trade distributes wealth and strategic goods. Imagine that a highly developed mining region produces iron. Our connected neighbor gains access to it and then passes that iron further along the network. The resource could unlock advanced units, better equipment, and specialized buildings far away from its original source. Now destroying one mine, raiding one road, or capturing one intermediate region could disrupt production throughout an entire realm. This is interesting because that makes economic warfare more than just reducing an army's income by a few percent. It creates things worth attacking and worth defending. Wealth itself is also intended to exist within your world. Regions build up wealth, and taxation allows you to collect a part of it as an income. When an army is raised, some of that wealth will then be used to fund its supply chain. If the army is defeated and those supplies are captured, their value would be transferred to the enemy as wealth. Suddenly, the location of a castle, the security of a road, and the survival of an army all belong to the same system. This is perhaps the best example of what Medieval 3 could restore. Campaign mechanics that generates objectives naturally, instead of instructing us to capture another settlement because a mission panel offers us a reward. But the danger is clear: trade routes, different levels of resources, population, supplies, and regional wealth all needs to be easy to understand at the same time. If players cannot see why a resource disappeared, or if the AI cannot protect a network supporting its armies, the system could be or become confusing and or easy to exploit, right? Complexity is only valuable when it produces meaningful choices. Characters are also moving away from the traditional structure of recent war games. And the current intention is to remove traditional skill trees, so instead of choosing another percentage bonus of something, characters will develop traits based on what they actually do, so from how you use them. A noble who commands armies becomes more capable in war, and another sent abroad may become a skilled diplomat. Some of their traits may then be inherited to their children, influencing later generations. The player is not an immortal faction leader, you play as the realm, the crown, while ruling families rise, fall, and potentially replace one another. Dynasties may have members across several kingdoms, allowing them to influence politics beyond your own borders. Within the realm, characters and houses can support different political causes and put pressure on the crown. These struggles could change succession laws, unlock entire building chains, or eventually push the realm into civil war. Medieval 3 does not want you to remember one overpowered general because you selected the correct skills. It wants you to remember the house that spent 3 generations defending your frontier and then decided it should rule the kingdom. This could combine the character attachment of Medieval 2 with a political system that actually grows out of the campaign. It also leads to one of the decisions I am uncertain about. Creative Assembly wants to move away from separate generals, diplomats and spies and other fixed agent classes. Instead, your realm has a limited group of powerful characters who can serve in different roles. That could make every person more important. Sending your best commander to negotiate abroad means that they are not available to lead an army. A food crisis on one side of the kingdom might force you to recall someone from the other. I like that dilemma. What worries me is what may disappear with the old system. Agents has never been perfect, right? They can become repetitive, they can be frustrating, and it could be unbearable when the AI just spams geishas or whatever, but their physical presence help keeping the campaign map feel inhabited. Priests travel between cities, spies cross the border, diplomats approach foreign capitals, assassins stalk enemy generals. Merchants compete over valuable resources, or used to do in Medieval 2 at least. They make the campaign feel like a place where people are moving and acting, and not only a screen where actions happen through buttons and menus. To be clear, the exact approach is still being explored. The developers has discussed priestly actions and characters specializing in trade, religion or warfare. The new trade prototype even shows a character physically establishing a route. So no agents may not mean that every action becomes a menu, but that is the risk I am concerned about. Medieval 3 wants more of its economy, population and geography to exist physically in the world. If diplomacy, spying and religion are then handled mainly through assignments or buttons, the campaign could become deeper while the map feels less alive. My ideal solution would perhaps be fewer agents, not no agents. Visible, memorable characters with broader roles maybe, and meaningful travel rather than dozens of disposable specialists performing the same action every turn. Another controversy is the launch roster. Creative Assembly has currently locked in 6 playable factions: England, France, the Holy Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire and the Sultanate of Rome, and the Kingdom of Jerusalem. That does not mean that Medieval 3 will launch only 6 factions. Creative Assembly also presented another 23 possible factions for a community vote. Each person can choose 4 favorites, and the results will create a list showing which factions the community wants the most. So the developers were clear that this does not mean that only the top 4 will be added. They will choose more launch factions from their full ranked list and may adjust the order to create a better balance across the map. Realms that are not made playable are still intended to exist on the map, of course. This has raised concerns that Medieval 3 will launch with only 10 playable factions. Now that number has not been confirmed, but if proves correct, it would be a very low starting point for a medieval Total War game, or any Total War game really, especially when the setting contains so many kingdoms, principalities, cultures that players will immediately want to control. There is a fair defense, I guess, if every playable faction needs unique traits, mechanics, political identities, and properly researched rosters. Quality takes time. A smaller but deeper selection can be better than 20 factions separated by one unit on a different color. But this leads us to the obvious commercial concern, right? Because a small starting roster could create the perfect base for years of faction DLC. To be clear, I don't have a problem paying for DLC when it adds meaningful content and extends the life of a game that I enjoy playing. Some Total War expansions have given me good reasons to return years later, but the problem is when DLC stops being an expansion and starts feeling like a missing part of the game. If Medieval 3 launches with a smaller group of deeply developed factions and still feels like a rich and complete medieval experience, I can accept more kingdoms being added later, but if major powers already exist on the map while remaining unavailable to play, the base game may feel incomplete, especially if those factions are then sold to us one by one. DLCs should expand Medieval 3. It should not be required to make Medieval 3 feel complete. We do not yet know the final faction count, the depth of each faction, or the plans after launch, so it would be unfair to call this a DLC scheme now, but it's absolutely something worth watching. On the battlefield, Creative Assembly is aiming to slow down the pace and give battles clearer phases. First comes the skirmishing, then you prepare the first clash, and after the lines meet you should still have time to make further tactical decisions. Morale, cohesion, fatigue, terrain and weather are intended to matter more. Knights should only behave like another entry in a clean counter chart. They are supposed to be terrifying. Or infantry might need to absorb their charge, exhaust them in waves and lure them into difficult ground before they can win. This is exactly the direction I want from a medieval battle game. Heavy cavalry should feel powerful and frightening, not simply receive a bonus against one unit type and a penalty against another. They receive an ambition for momentum to be able to shift during battle, like a heroic stand or a successful counterattack or the visible survival of a commander, giving a wavering army one final sort of chance. For me, Attila came closest to hitting the sweet spot. Its battles still felt intense and deadly, but most engagements lasted long enough for positioning, fatigue, morale, and well-timed maneuvers to matter. Many newer Total War games have moved towards a much faster pace. Units close the distance quickly, fights are decided rapidly, and the players is often jumping between units to activate abilities or stop a sudden collapse. Battles can become less about carrying out a clear plan and more about keeping up with everything at once. A clickfest rather than a tactical battle. Now, Creative Assembly did not compare Medieval 3 with Attila, that's my own benchmark. I don't want the battles to become too slow or lifeless either. I want the same balance. Intense fighting, but enough time to read the battle and make good decisions. Sieges bring every part of this vision together. The developers wanted fewer sieges, but they want each one to be larger and more important. Settlements may have several defensive layers, and where the land allows it, be attacked from every direction. Walls are being designed to be narrower and closer to real medieval walls. The stated goal is for them to be fully destructible, with rubble creating new paths into the city. In the prototype, towers have interiors and several floors, and they only fire when soldiers with bows are actually inside them. The developers are also exploring the idea of environmental weapons, allowing sword infantry stationed on walls or towers to pick up nearby bows and begin shooting. Defenders can withdraw from the outer walls into the streets, then to inner fortifications, and finally an enterable keep. And most importantly, what you build during the campaign should appear in the battle. The developers are considering options such as moats, hoardings, barbicans, stronger gates, and artillery positions. The aim is for the defensive choices made on the campaign map to shape the siege itself. Everything you develop on the campaign map becomes the battlefield on which your kingdom may survive or collapse. This could produce the sieges Total War players has been asking since Medieval 2, basically. It could also expose every weakness of the game at once. Settlements shaped by the campaign, destructible walls, several floors, interiors, street fighting, thousands of soldiers, all depend on pathfinding and battle AI. Now, they also still said that they are actively working on improving the pathfinding, for example, but if the units cannot navigate the settlement, none of the ambition matters, right? Sieges are therefore more than an exciting feature. They may become the clearest test of whether Creative Assembly can turn this vision into a functioning game. So that brings us to the issue beneath almost every section of this video: artificial intelligence. The campaign AI must understand population, workforce, resources, trade, taxation, supplies, geography, and whatnot. The battle AI must understand terrain, fatigue, cohesion, layered defenses, destructible settlements. These systems are exciting because they are connected, but it also means that failure in one can weaken all the others. If the AI cannot manage population, its armies collapse or it cheats. If it cannot understand trade, economic warfare becomes a one-sided exploit. If it cannot navigate the player-designed castle, sieges becomes a spectacle without strategy, I guess. Creative Assembly says the campaign and battle AI teams are being involved while these foundations are built. That's encouraging, but it's not proof. So, the conclusions. I really like what Creative Assembly is trying to build here, I really do. Population, geography, resources, dynasties, and warfare are not being designed as separate features. They are being treated as part of the same medieval world. That suggests that the developers understand what older Total War campaigns could make us feel and what parts of that experience the series has gradually lost. But understanding the problem and solving it is not the same thing, right? Right now, Medieval 3 is a collection of promising ideas, early prototypes, and ambitious plans. We do not know whether the AI can use these systems, whether the deeper simulation will create strategy rather than busyware, whether the battles will feel better at slower pace, or whether the new sieges will actually work. We do not know how many playable factions will be available at launch, or whether the starting roster will feel complete. And I remain uncertain about moving away from traditional agents. Medieval 3 wants more of the campaign to exist physically in the world, yet it risks removing some of the people who helped that map feel inhabited. So no, I'm not ready to declare that Total War is back, but I am ready to say that Creative Assembly appears to be asking the right questions. We have heard ambitious plans before. This time, we need to see the finished game. Medieval 3 could bring back what Total War lost. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.